Yeah, so getting back to video things, we're on a developer tools podcast, and I think it would be nice to talk about how like developers can use Streamplace as a tool. I was also at the Atmosphere conference, and a conversation that really interested in me, and I actually like thought of the idea before I heard you guys talk about it. But you teaming up with Skylight Social to be like the live video aspect of their TikTok clone.
Yeah.
So, like, can you go into that a little bit and maybe once you're done with that, how that might translate to other people building other platforms and even building their own websites?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, shout out to Skylight, second biggest app in the app protocol ecosystem now. It's 150,000,
Yeah.
200,000 users, something like that now. Tori and Reed, also Seattle locals like me, so that's been awesome working with them and working to get Streamplace into there. But yeah, like you got at, so we're working now to embed Streamplace streams within the Skylight Social app, but that is as a prototype of just shipping the Streamplace primitives as JavaScript libraries that can then get embedded within React and React Native apps. So that's on the client side. We're looking to make that very easily embeddable and make that just an obvious choice for any at protocol ecosystem app that wants to have live video. Let's make it the obvious choice, right? Streamplace, obviously. Here's npm install Streamplace and get started, that kind of thing. On the infrastructural side, so something I've been very, very committed to since the beginning of Streamplace, from a developer tooling perspective, is that it is a single file binary. It's not microservices. It's not a Docker container, though we do ship a Docker distribution. It is one single file node. And if you want to make changes to it, you can clone our repo, change some code, run make, and you have that one single file statically linked node with no dependencies that works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And that's something I got wrong. Like I'm tempted to say we got wrong, but that's something I got wrong specifically early on in LivePeer Studios development. Is not for any particular reason, but this tech industry sort of runs on microservices, right? And I get it. If you're Microsoft and you have to coordinate 1,000 teams globally, you're going to want yourself some microservices. But coming from an open source and decentralized primitive sort of perspective, you don't want. We had LivePeer Studios' whole stack was open source, but nobody other than us could run it because it was like 6 different services that all got deployed to a Kubernetes cluster and communicated with each other and had different dependencies and all of that. And I tried to bring it together and ship it out in a project called LivePeer in a Box, and that just never went anywhere. And so this is sort of my not pro monolith approach necessarily, but this has been sort of my advocacy, is that for decentralized networks like this, you really need to have the easiest possible development experience. So it's a single file. You can be just a sort of power user, very sort of enthusiast about this stuff. If you just know how to make a VPS, upload the file, run the node, and you can get started really, really easily. So those are our sort of two approaches, but still get the benefit. This is something I really learned from working with Blue Sky and the app protocol ecosystem. The coolest thing about that is it's all production data, right? As soon as you start developing your app, you connect to the fire hose, and here's like 5 megabits of Blue Sky posts and likes and follows and everything that are flowing right through you. And you can really sort of build in production. It's not this sort of sandboxed, fake data kind of thing where you're only building things in your own little toolkit there. So that's the other piece, is you run your own Streamplace node, configure it to replicate streams with other Streamplace nodes, and you can work directly with the data there, right? Something I haven't done this a lot, but something I do on my own. So I do development streams for Streamplace almost every day. And I love to, now that we're a little further along, I can download my actual segments of my live stream into my dev node and change how they're processed and push them back out, right? Very sort of meta approach to doing development. So that's another piece of it, is the building and production and making it as easy as possible to people to get apps that are working with the actual data.
One interesting question that I always like to ask people when they're building on App Proto is like, So @proto has this notion of a lexicon. It's like you can sort of define your own schema for your own data type, and then Blue Sky has their lexicon. So if you use theirs, it shows up as content on Blue Sky, and if you use your own, just like you kind of got to figure out how to display it or whatever. And I'm curious, like, what is your balance for that? It's like, how much do you think about using like the regular @proto lexicon, like just to have things show up like on the Blue Sky site versus like, we want to have like custom data for our platforms or whatever, and we want to use our own lexicon for that. What does that balance look like for y'all?
Great question. Really active discussion in the community right now about that sort of thing. I can give a really concrete example of how that has sort of played out for us. The very first version. So if you're a live streaming platform, you need chat. We actually got pretty much 0 users until we had chat, because that was sort of a necessary condition to having the audience interaction that makes people actually want to do this sort of thing. So the first version of chat we shipped was Blue Sky replies. So basically, when you go live, and this part's still true, when you go live, it makes a Blue Sky post, and it's got your thumbnail there, and in your sort of stream title, and a link so people can click and watch your stream play stream. And so the first version of chat that we shipped, when you typed a chat reply in there, it posted a reply to that post on Blue Sky, which was interesting and funny. It would lead to, so afterward, after a long live stream, you've had this sort of Blue Sky post that's got 700 replies, but none of them are threaded. So it's all just sort of like throwing random messages at here. And people are like, what is this? I don't understand what's happening here. So I got some feedback on that. Ended up moving it to our own lexicon. So instead of being a app.bsky.feed.post, they became place.stream.chat.messages. And so now we don't have that problem anymore, but it really hurts visibility, right? One of the things that was nice about the silly old system is that people saw all these weird, random, non-threaded replies, and they're like, what's going on here? What is this? And then they would go click on the stream and go find out what it is. So it was actually a little unpopular among some folks for us to make that change. And so this has been, one area where it would be great if there's a middle ground, right? Right now it feels very all or nothing, where either we're making Blue Sky posts, which works, but is sort of this semantic mismatch, or you're making stream place chat messages, which are, we can customize to our needs, but they don't right now show up anywhere else until other people build integrations. So I would love if there was sort of a middle ground in there. One thing I had a conversation with a couple folks on the Blue Sky team about would be, Blue Sky's probably, but obviously, when you're doing what I do, people come up to you a lot and they say, "Oh, I understand at protocol live streams. So are they going to be in the Blue Sky app?" And I say, maybe. Like, not really up to me, right? I would love for that to be true someday. Obviously, they have moderation concerns because we exist sort of unlike something like Skylight videos, which are also Blue Sky posts and are sort of under the protective aegis of their moderation infrastructure. We operate outside of that and have to do our own. So very legitimately, they've got concerns about making sure that stuff gets moderated well and that sort of thing. But something I had a conversation about, which would be an interesting middle ground for us, would be something like a presence API, which is to say, or I think Discord calls these activities, but basically it's like, I'm live right now, and that means there's a red circle around my avatar, and you can click that and see where I'm live, and then go to a different app or a different website to actually watch the live stream. So something like that would be, I think, a really interesting middle ground where they don't have to be responsible for hosting the content, but they still sort of throw a bone to the other platforms and post them in that same direction. You could obviously do something like a story in the same way, I would imagine, which is another interesting category of thing where a story on almost every platform is a temporary piece of content, right? Where it's like an expiring video that will exist for 8 hours and then go away, that kind of thing. So some interesting places there. I tend to think I don't like the idea of ever really having different social graphs on the protocol. I understand that the argument is that your LinkedIn friends and your Instagram friends might be a different group of people, but I don't really. I think one of the biggest selling points of the ad protocol is that you have this sort of portable social graph that works across a lot of different apps, and you don't have to re-find your friends when you move from Blue Sky to Skylight to Streamplace to what have you. So there's different schools of thought on this, and I guess I would tend toward like interconnection maximalism would be the term, I guess. Just as much as possible, I would love if we were all using the same lexicons and had interoperable data, and lots of apps feature data from lots of different lexicons that were designed by lots of different teams. Hope we can push that direction.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of the interconnected maximalists too. It's just like we currently live in a world of walled gardens, and like trying to imagine the world not like that is hard. We've never really seen that. Like you could say maybe Web 1.0, but Web 1.0 is like so bare bones that it barely even resembles the modern world. So like kind of like the walled garden aesthetic, but with interconnected data, it just seems like it could be so fun. Like Blue Sky itself is trying to be a Twitter replacement, and Twitter is trying to be the everything app. I think Blue Sky, oddly enough, has a better opportunity to be an everything app since all of the data is already open. There's nothing to say that they won't start displaying your streams or posts from Whitewind or images from flashes all in one app. I'm very interested just to see where all the innovation goes in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality of it is, if you're decentralizing successfully, you don't want you want lots of apps that work with the same set of data, and you want there to be lots of apps, right? So part of our pitch to big Twitch streamers when we're sort of ready to start going after them is, don't switch from Twitch to Streamplace. Switch from Twitch to your own app that has its own presence in the App Store and Play Store, and you have a direct relationship with your fans. But because it's powered by Streamplace infrastructure, you still have sort of all the creature comforts you would expect from a rich live streaming platform, right? You have chat, you can host other streamers, you can even decide to sort of promote. You've got your own sort of squad, and they all show up within your app, and people go to your app to watch their streams, but then they launch their own app and it jumps over to there. I think that's, I don't know. I think that's super promising. Big Twitch streamers are sort of medium-sized businesses unto themselves, right? With the revenue they bring in and the sort of audiences they have. The hard part, and this was also a huge topic at Atmosphere Conf, is how do we explain any of this stuff to average users, right?
Yeah.
So it's so hard because you start with, okay, it's Blue Sky is Twitter, but it's Jay instead of Elon, and we're all happy. Okay. Well, actually, it's built on these things called PDSs, personal data servers, and that's where all of your data lives. And now there's other apps in there. And it's so impossible to because people think they get it because they've seen sign in with Google and sign in with Facebook before. Yeah. So they're like, oh, they go to Streamplace and it's like, oh, it's sign in with Blue Sky. I understand what that means. And it's like, no, actually, there's something more interesting and awesome happening here, which is that it's not just you're using it as an OAuth mechanism. And I've already used the word OAuth, so I've lost everybody. But it's not just that, but it's that you are interacting. It's this different app interacting with your same set of data. And can build lots of interesting things in that way. And there's nothing like that really. Web3 people get it because all your data is on chain and different apps interact with that. That's fine. But your average user, there's nothing to compare it to really. And so I don't know. I think it's a huge open problem is how to educate people and sort of sell them on how that works.